All right. While we have been struggling, I'd say the majority of us in this country, struggling with the definition of who we are as a nation, what direction we're heading, as we try to further obliterate our past and pretend like the injustices and the crimes against our own citizens never occurred, or if they did occur, well, too bad, let's look forward. All this other bullshit. As we are still trying to deal with what the Derek Chauvin murder conviction represented, even as the murder of black folk continue by cops, during all that, the Republican Party, the Christian Fascist Party around the country on the state level, has decided they're going to create harsher penalties for people like me and my daughter. Not just us selectively, but for people like us who decide we're going to take to the streets and protest. We're going to march in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. We're going to march in support of retarding or stopping global warming. We're going to demonstrate against injustice. Oh, are we really? Republican-led states are introducing punitive new measures governing protests. First Amendment, once again, the religious son of a bitches in this country, mostly the Christian fascists, have been chipping away at the First Amendment separation of church and state for the past 35 years, deliberately, consciously banging it, knocking pieces of it away until there's not going to be any left. And now they're going after the right to protest, to petition the government for redress of grievances, I believe is how it's put. Examples. Republican legislators in Oklahoma and Iowa. It's hard for me to finish this sentence, but here's what the rest of it says. These Republican legislators have passed bills granting immunity to drivers whose vehicles strike and injure protesters in public streets. So, some psychotic fuck like the one in Charlottesville who guns his car because he's a racist pig into a group of peaceful protesters and kills somebody. Well, if you do it in Oklahoma or Iowa now, by God, you're immune. A Republican proposal in Indiana would bar anyone convicted of unlawful assembly. And what is unlawful assembly? Do you know what it is? It's whatever the fuck the state legislature says it is. First Amendment, right to protest, not if the General Assembly in Indiana says, that's unlawful. So what happens? This proposal would bar anyone convicted of unlawful assembly from holding state employment, including elected office. State employment. You can't work on a fucking road gang for the Department of Transportation in your home state if you're convicted of unlawful assembly. Well, then I guess the 10,000 scum who attacked the U.S. Capitol would fall under this law too, right? Wrong. A Minnesota bill, Minnesota, would prohibit those convicted of unlawful protesting from receiving student loans, unemployment benefits, or housing assistance. Do you see what's going on here? In Florida, this putrid Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation this week that makes even tougher existing laws governing public disorder. And this bill created a whole new level of infractions. Do you know what he calls it? What this pig son of a bitch DeSantis calls this bill? He calls it, quote, the strongest anti-looting, anti-rioting, pro-law enforcement piece of legislation in the country, end quote. Where's all this coming from? Well, it's part of a wave kicked up by the Christian fascists of all this new anti-protest legislation, sponsored and supported and written by the Christian fascists. All of this in the 11 months since the Black Lives Matter protests swept this country following the murder, the fucking execution of George Floyd in a goddamn street in Minnesota. These white people, holy shit, for a minute there I thought, forgot, I'm one of them. I'm white. I'm not one of them. These white people, these Christian fascists, these dirty son of a bitches are deliberately trying to snuff out any kind of protest against their filthy, rotten Christian fascist rules. Oh my God. Oh my God. So Democrats and liberals and conscious white people and black folk and young people and people who believe in holding murderous cops accountable. All of us took to the streets last May to highlight racism and policing and other forms of social injustice. The Black Lives Matter movement is not just about this fucking Derek Chauvin, this murderous pig, or the rest of these cops. It's about the top to bottom, sunrise to sunset, moment to moment, Monday through Friday, bullshit that black folk have to deal with constantly, unendingly, without let up. Social injustice. But that's how a lot of the people I just categorized responded. Take to the streets, demonstrate, carry your sign, let the legislatures and the mayors and the governors and anybody else who's paying attention know where we stand. But Republicans, the Christian fascists, they responded to the summer of protests by proposing this whole new set of measures governing the right to lawfully assemble. This comes from these putrid bastards who are always waving a copy of the U.S. Constitution in your face. I don't know what the fuck they're trying to do with that, since they violate the Constitution every time they open their filthy mouths. But these Christian fascists who are in the legislatures in 34 states have introduced 81 anti-protest bills during the 2021 legislative session. I mean, in the past 3 or 4 months. More than twice as many proposals as any other year. That's according to a senior legal advisor at the International Center for Not-for-Profit Law. Her name is Ellie Page, and that organization tracks legislation limiting the right to protest. Now, some, like this unconscionable Christian fascist bastard Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, he's labeling these bills as anti-riot bills. You see what the Christian fascists are demanding, and that is what they have always demanded. Their preachers and their leaders and their bishops and their priests and their popes and their ministers, and that is shut the fuck up. No dissent, no argument, no questioning, nothing. Accept what we say, accept the way we interpret our holy writ, and don't question it. Because if you do, you are going to burn in hell. This is just the civilian equivalent of you are going to burn in hell. When we pass these laws, when we make it a punishable crime because you are out protesting, shut the fuck up. Not only can you not protest what we are doing to protesting, but we're going to take the right of protesting away from you too, punishable by all sorts of evil, nasty shit. You'll never get a student loan. You'll never work for any form of government. You'll never receive unemployment comp. You will have a police record. It will influence who and how you're hired. We are going to destroy dissent and protest in this country no matter what. This is the Christian fascist attitude. This is not coming from Jews or Muslims or Buddhists or Hindus or atheists or agnostics. This is coming from Christians. Whether you like that or not, whether you see that as some sort of an attack on my part, on this fucked up religion, I don't care how you see it. That is what's going on. Anti-riot bills, huh? All these laws are carrying forward. Where did I get this article? New York Times? Yeah. This is how they put it. These laws carry forward the hyperbolic message Republicans have been pushing in the 11 months since the Black Lives Matter protests against racial injustice swept the country. And that is that Democrats are tolerant of violent and criminal actions from those who protest against racial injustice. I'll put myself with the Democrats because I usually like Bernie Sanders. I usually vote with them. So this means that I am tolerant of violent and criminal actions. You son of a bitches. Why don't you write your fucking laws where it concerns people who attack the seat of government in this country? Why don't you write your laws about these cowardly, degenerate assholes who make up these militia groups, the Proud Pricks and the 3%ers and the Cucumbers and the rest of these scum, filth, fascist scum? But no, not going to do that. Let's go after these people who are advocating for racial justice. Ain't no fucking racial justice. We're not going to allow it. What are you talking about? We allow racial justice. Next thing you know, these coloreds are going to be wanting reparations for everything we stole from them for 400 fucking years. And that's not going to happen, bro. Oh my God. I get caught into this stuff. I get caught into it because it affects me. It affects my country. It affects my friends. It affects people I don't even know. It's a rot that is in this country from the founding of the Constitution. This rot has been at the center of our Constitution. And we have managed, haven't we, to somehow, we whites, pretend like it's not there. I don't want. I never owned any slaves. Sally Hemings. Who the fuck's that? I don't know what you're talking about. Tulsa riots. Oh, I don't know. The riots in Florida that killed 300 black. I don't know what you're talking. I don't know any of this stuff. Galveston, Texas. No. I know nothing about it. Detroit. No. Newark. No. It affects me. It affects my friends, my country, strangers I don't know and never will know. It affects my mind, my soul, my heart. It makes me just over and over and over again ashamed, just down to the soles of my feet, ashamed to be part of this country in the eyes of the world. All this bullshit we've been putting out there for 230 years. Well, send me your tired, your hopeless, your longing to be free types and stuff and shit, you know. And we put that in New York Harbor. And that's a fucking lie. It is a lie. And you know the sad part? It always has been. We have tried to restrict immigrants in this country. We have burned immigrants to death. We have beaten them. We have tortured them, whether they were voluntary immigrants or people brought over here enslaved and treated like shit. That inscription on the Statue of Liberty, some civic organization ought to scrub it off. It doesn't mean a thing. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.